So when we look at our lives and we look at being a kid, we've always been creative, right, as a kid. And then we go through school, we go through different other aspects of our life as kids, and then sometime when it's the time to make a decision in terms of what that career is going to look like, we don't think about going the creative way. We kind of lose that path. Today we have two amazing artists who have braved those norms and have trailblazed through to make their life work today, to be an artist. The first person we have over here is Maisoon. And Maisoon is an Emirati artist and the founder of the Paintly store. She is active both in Dubai as well as internationally. She graduated in Zayed University in 2010 with a degree in interior design. Over a period of time, she decided to become an artist. And so Maisoon's work has been seen in some of the work that she's done underwater. She's done 3 solo shows, 87 art exhibitions in total so far in 15 different countries. Some of them are the Emirati Expression at the Emirates Palace in Abu Dhabi, Macedonian Museum in Greece, Palazzo TE Museum in Italy, CICA Museum in South Korea, and the Art Science Museum in Singapore. Then we have Dina, and Dina is an artist and a muralist currently based in Dubai. She was born in Russia and is raised in Syria. She graduated in a BA in Fine Arts and today uses art to speak her mind, to express her emotions, and to show her ideas. Dina has worked with a number of world-renowned brands like Nike, Apple, Costa, Audi, Instagram, Estee Lauder, and many more. She has also participated in a number of street art festivals, global projects, and has made her mark in a number of cities around the world through her public murals. So with that, I'd like to kick off. So Maisoon, tell us a bit about herself.
Well, I graduated from Al Ittihad Private School, where my family noticed that I have a passion for art. Later on, I decided to join Zayed University to major in interior design, where I thought I don't want to be limited to only 2D art. Why not go to 3D? That's why I selected interior design as my major. The whole room became a canvas to me. Then I started exhibiting here in UAE, and then I moved on internationally. After in year 2018, I established the Paintly store, where instead of having a third party representing me, they can represent me directly from my company and close deals directly from there.
So yeah. And Dina, what about you?
I think this is no. Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So I was born in Moscow. My mom is Russian. My dad is Syrian. I was raised in Syria, and I was into art since I was a little child. I was a crazy, hyperactive kid, and the only way my mom found to make me stick into, like, next to a chair and a table is just to give me paints. And this is where my whole passion began. Then I studied fine art. I was specialized in graphic design and advertising. I'm gonna talk a lot about that part later on. And then I started my own studio in Damascus, but then the situation was going worse and worse in Syria, so I decided just to travel. Also, in the same time, funny enough, one of my friends were working here in Dubai, so he showed his company my portfolio, and they offered me a job as a graphic designer. And I moved to Dubai, and then I just kept changing agencies, and eventually I left corporate world forever, which was one of the best decisions I have ever made, and got my own license and started doing public art worldwide. So, yeah.
Wow, that's quite the journey both of you all have had, right? Yeah. Why do you do what you do?
The question is directed to me or both of
To both of you, but you can start off with.
You're sitting next.
Well, I'm very passionate about it, and I try my best even to transfer my knowledge to other art students as well. Sometimes I get like opportunities related to art from embassies, like UAE embassies. I try to push Emirati talents to be able to take the opportunity. Whenever I get something, I usually announce it on my Instagram. So yeah.
And Dina, what?
Why I do what I do? Well, first, I love it. It's my passion. It was always my escape from reality since I was a kid. So I would sit for hours, daydream, doodle, copy stuff from cartoons, from books that my mom used to read for me. Like Russian literature is amazing, and it has one of the best illustration, in my opinion, anywhere. So because I was raised with that, of course, so I also have that nostalgia and that amazing emotional relationship to these books. So I used to copy from these books and draw since I was a kid. And yeah, I love it. But then I also, when I started doing more public art, I discovered that it's an amazing way to give people free access to art. They don't need to be part of a specific society or have money or educated or anything else. They have free access to art. And public art also changed the identities and the faces of cities and neighborhoods and places. It speaks their language, their history, their traditions. So for me, that was very important. That's one big part of why I do street art. And I really, really try to push harder for public art here in the UAE.
That's great to hear. I'm looking forward to seeing some of your work around the place. I've seen a couple. What do you, according to you, today has been like the biggest challenge?
I think the first mural artwork that I did, it was a 4-level building. I think I started huge in scale for the first time. And I remember once I had like an aluminum sheet from the 4th floor falling on my head, and I had a deadline to finish. So yeah, it was kind of tough, but I'm happy that I was able to deliver it on time. The second one is painting under seawater. Because of the currents, it's kind of hard to be steady. Sometimes you find a shark passing by, or a turtle, or something that would actually distract you while you're creating your artwork. So yeah.
A completely different level of danger, right?
Challenges.
Yeah, exactly. What made you actually want to do something under seawater?
I heard my grandfather, he was talking about a boat called Dara. And he was one of the survivors. So I was like, why not get inspired from his story and actually create the artworks underwater? So I used waterproof, heatproof, and against UV materials to be able to create the artwork. And I started painting underwater from there.
That's fascinating, absolutely fascinating. What about your challenges, Dina?
So I think every stage of my life I had different type of challenges, professionally or personally or any other challenges. Now for me the biggest, not problem, but a challenge, and it is something I'm still working on, is balancing between my admin work, talking to brands, to clients, organizing stuff, getting all that finance fixed, quotations and invoices and meetings, and the creative part of my work. And although I do have a manager, but I still need to do a lot of admin work. So sometimes it's hard to make that switch between the creative side and the admin side, and both are important. I really have to focus on my art, improve my style, do my research, read a lot. But on the other side, I still also need to take a lot of stress and pressure daily basis on communication, because communication takes a lot of time and energy. So yeah, I think this is one of the challenges that I'm working on now. And one of the things that helped me a lot is therapy and meditation. And that's why in my latest work, you can see like the one I did in Los Angeles, for example, is about mental health, because it's something that I feel really strongly about. And a lot of people are facing difficulties with anxieties and overthinking and stress. Sometimes they can't even tell where it comes from. Without therapy, they would never know. So, and I think this is a very important factor that we need to talk about here in Dubai and so many different other cities in the world, that I see it affecting people's life on daily basis, my friends or family or colleagues. So yeah.
And looking at your work, It's a very interesting take if you're looking at mental health and you're looking at well-being. That's a very interesting take on it. Coming back to the challenges, so it is commendable. It's not that easy, right?
Yeah, of course. It's hard. And sometimes with my art, with my colorful patterns, really hard to talk about depressing, or very serious matters. So yeah.
Interestingly enough, what you said about, having to balance between being an artist and being someone who has to take care and manage and do admin work. Maisoon, I'm going to come back to you. Have you found those challenges for yourself? Or do you have answers for Dina in regards to that?
That's a tough one.
It is a tough one. It's a challenge for everyone, believe me.
Do you find it as a challenge to have to shift between being an artist and the store?
Well, it's kind of... Yeah, well, you have to be really emotional while you're creating the artwork, and then when it comes to business, you have to be really
rational.
strict.
Exactly.
So
You're having two faces, like two personalities: the boss personality and the artist personality.
I think maybe part of being human, right? Is trying to figure out different segues into who you're going to be.
Different roles.
And different roles. Yes, I agree. What are your inspirations, and where do you get your influences from?
I get my inspiration from my surroundings, usually people that I meet on daily basis, something I read in the media, or during my travels. I would create artwork during my travel and so forth.
For me, a lot of the inspiration behind my work comes from our culture, urban life, nature, animals, patterns. That's also one of the reasons why I got a certificate to dive, so I can see those creatures. And
we should go diving together.
Yeah, we should. Yeah.
Maybe do a piece together.
Yeah, absolutely. I never tried painting underwater, but I just dive to look at those creatures more close up and take photos and study this, like different visuals, their behavior, and maybe I inspire things from there as well. Yeah.
If that art piece happens, we're going to give Cherry over here the credit for putting both of you all together, right?
No, I won't see it underwater.
No.
You will all have to dive. Maybe
here.
we'll do a talk underwater.
But that would be great to actually see collaborations happening in some completely different, unusual ways.
But I'm
right?
new. I'm new in this diving thing. It's not as easy as you think, guys.
Well, we'll find out. Unless one tries.
Yeah, absolutely.
In terms of your influences, who are the people that you look at in terms of influences?
I think every person influenced me in a way, like the people that I meet on daily basis, because each one of them has their own strength and their own uniqueness. So I can't focus on a particular person and precise.
So one of my influences when it comes to art was Andy Warhol, and in general pop art. I was very interested on the humor in his work, on the colors, on the take of doing something mass-produced and creating something repetitive of it. It was also something that a lot of people didn't get back then, even now. So I think it was also brave. It was also reflecting his own personality into his work in a very direct and very shocking way for so many people. So definitely he was one of the people I got inspired by or influenced by. Also different, there's so many people that I got influenced by when it comes to art. On a personal level, Frida Kahlo, many different people from my family, usually females, like my mom, my grandma. They were all lovers for beauty and art. I was raised in a place that art was always so much appreciated and definitely influenced the way I do things and the way I look at art. So yeah.
It's always good to have role models, and I think part of us being here at a panel discussion that's looking at, her story, right? What do both of you all feel, and I'm going to go to Dina and then I'll come back to Maisoon on this one, is you talked about your mother and your grandmother being strong role models. When it comes to being a creative today, right, and if you have to look back at women or creatives during your childhood, who were the ones that you looked at in terms of creativity? Were there people in your community? Were there artists in your community that you?
That's a very interesting question. Like there's always creative people around you that you get inspired by. But if I want to talk about my field now, which is street art and public art, it's still a male-dominant field. So even now, the females doing that are much more less than males. And in my time, when I was younger, I had no role model when it comes to street art. Like I didn't know any street artist, female street artist that I can look up to and say, oh, I can be them. And also remember when we were kids, the internet and all that stuff was just starting, right? So the reach of information and things, I'm sure they existed, but they weren't around me.
Got
So I was more inspired by, for example, my mom, because she was an artist, my grandmother, but in my field, I had a gap there. And that's one of the things that I care about now. That's why I want to create. I want to be that person that when a girl in Africa or Syria or any other place see me and they say, oh, if she did it and she came from here, I can do it too. So this is something I feel very strongly about because I didn't have it when I was a kid.
That's extremely powerful.
Yeah.
Thank you for being you.
Thank you.
Maisoon, when it comes to you.
Oh, well, my aunt is a fine artist. My dad's into photography and my mom's into fashion. So I think I got the combination for all three.
And was it easy getting into being an artist for you when it came to a career or looking at it as a full-time possibility?
Well, it was something I was doing since I was in kindergarten. Like the teacher used to tell my mother, like, we noticed that your daughter is being very talented in art and she stands out compared to the rest of her colleagues. So yeah, I think it's something that I was really passionate about since I was a child. Yeah.
That's great to hear. It's not, when I look at my cultures and I look maybe at sometimes at Eastern cultures, we tend to have very stereotypical roles of, you have to be an engineer or be a doctor.
Oh, it's
And then
same
the
here,
whole-
believe me. Yeah, a doctor, you have 3 options.
Maximum is a lawyer. If you want to be creative, it's an architect. So it's really great to be able to see, the opportunity and a platform to say, pursue your dreams in something that's creative, something that other people aren't taking on as a career.
Well, we have still the stereotypes. It's not like old only. Like until the moment some people will ask you, what you do? I'm an artist. Oh, what a nice hobby. What do you do for a living,
Maybe you can be that person to actually to show them that that's what success can actually look like.
Well, a lot
as
of
an-
people are doing that already, but I mean, it's something that we need to talk about more, which is
Next
important.
panel discussion.
Yeah.
It's so one of the if I have to look back at this, right? If when we're talking about why people don't get into art, right, and they don't get into creative fields, it's possibly also because in some ways there's a fear attached to it. There's the mainstream and the questions about what we want to do today is about having stability and security and different other things that are considered to be priorities, right?
Mm-hmm.
What are your fears when it comes to, and how did you break through them? Or what do you have as fears today?
That's a very interesting question. So I think before I had different fears than I have now. There's always fears. I think it's something natural, it's part of us as humans, and that's again why I speak always about therapy and meditation, because this kind of things also help you know more what you are and what do you want to be and what's your fears, because sometimes we think we know our fears but we don't really know them. I think a lot of people in the creative industry, or not even in the creative industry, just let's say normal people in life doing other things, there's always this fear attached to us showing our work. Unless it's perfect and mature, we don't show it. We don't put it out there because we focus too much on the result and we focus too little on the journey. We focus too little on the process. What did we do, the progress to get there? So I think we need to give more credit on the process of doing that rather than just showing a masterpiece. You need to show your work no matter what level it is. A lot of people come to me, I'm like, I like doing this, but I never posted it online. I never approached someone with it. I never showed my portfolio to anyone because we're always scared of other people's judgment, that this is so naive or it's very basic, And it's so fine. No one started as perfect as they are in their advanced level of career. They need to start somewhere. So I think we need to teach kids from a very younger age that they need to, first, they need to express themselves the way they are. Second, they need to show their work. They need to put it out there. And they need to accept good and bad criticism and take it with an open heart, you know what I mean? Yeah. So I think if we start from there, all the fears will a bit change when it comes to showing yourself or expressing yourself. And I think this is also something very important to talk about in the Middle East, because we're in a more conservative culture in many different places, and people are just they care so much about society's opinion and the bigger group than what they are passionate about, or their opinion or their art. And we need to give a lot of importance and credit to what we think, what we feel inside, not only what my best friend, brother-in-law will say about this this doodle, you know? Sometimes one little comment online or someone who says something about the way you look or you paint will change years after. And you find this in therapy. Like a lot of my friends did therapy and they were shocked that things that happened when they were 7 years old affected their lives now. So yeah, so I think that we just need to be more brave about showing our things and not expecting to be perfect. That image of perfection should be a bit, you know, yeah.
It reminds me of this talk that I'd seen by Brené Brown. I don't know, have you heard of Brené Brown?
Yeah.
Yeah? So Brené Brown has this, when she had finished off her first TED Talk, and she didn't realize that it was going to go as viral as it did. She also ended up with tons of comments from people saying, dishing her and saying bad things. And it affected her for a while, until one day she pulled herself out of there and she said, actually, if you're not in the rink, right, then you're not, whatever you say is not going to be a comment that affects me. Yeah. If you're in the arena, right, and you're actually also fighting against your own fears, then I'll take your criticism to what you. Otherwise, it doesn't matter.
Absolutely.
You could be sitting in the audience and trying to say, "Oh, you should have done this, or you could do it this way."
It's very easy to talk, but it's harder to do, right?
Yeah. Especially with like art, right, where you're getting constant, whether it's public art or in a gallery, you're actually putting it out there for extremely visible, extremely vulnerable for people to see the work.
Being on a platform or in a place where it's highlighted, it's always not a risk, but it's always a place when you're more open. That's why street art is more challenging for me as well than when I was doing just work in my studio, because you're on a platform, you're open, you're in different countries, in different places every day. It's not only the weather, it's some rude people, some crazy people, some nice people, it's everything. The street rules. So you're there, you're in public, you're gonna accept the rules in these places, and you need to know more about it. And that's why I think it's an amazing journey of learning and exploring.
What have your fears been? Is it similar to Dina?
No.
Is it very different?
It's a bit different. To me, it's like, how is my artist gonna be after that? How much did I contribute to the community itself? Like, I try to volunteer as much as I can, giving classes like for autism and orphan kids, help students to grow in their career. So every day I wake up, I'm like, what did I do for the community? So yeah.
I can see parallels between both of you.
Okay.
Yeah, the parallels are about asking the big questions in life, right?
I think it's about all artists.
Yeah, I think so. It's, to be philosophical about things, to figure out how to share your gift with others, give back to community. And that's an extremely powerful tool through art to be able to do that. This is a question for Dina specifically. So you spoke about coming to Dubai, right? And then going through a process over here. What has made you to stay on in Dubai?
What do you mean stay on?
Like, for example, you came here because you had a friend of yours invite you here, and then you had the opportunities of a career. When it came to being an artist, what made you use Dubai as
do the switch, you mean?
Yeah.
So I was already here for a few years. I was working as an art director in an advertising agency. I did advertising for a few years. And again, like, I was doing a lot of creative things, but a lot of not creative things that I didn't like. And I also, at the same time, started discovering that I'm frustrated. I don't wanna sit on a screen all day long. I wanna create something more creative. So at some point, I did the leap of faith. So I left my company. I saved some money. I started my own license, my own company. And then I started doing freelance work. I got also more time to travel, which means I can do more public walls because it's a little bit hard to do it here. So, and then I had more practice. I posted my work online. I did a lot of voluntary work actually with charities, some exhibitions, some festivals, street art festivals. So it was a very good platform for people to see my work. Also a great place for me to learn, to explore, and to have the practice. When you need 20 meters wall to practice, it's not an easy canvas you can get any day, you know? So when you have these festivals and these traveling trips, I had more opportunity to do that. So yeah, and then afterwards I had a lot of clients approaching me here in Dubai and some also internationally. So I kept myself busy and sometimes even find it hard to find the time to do my own like art series or solo shows, for example. So yeah, and I'm still in that place, bouncing between the two.
Okay, sounds good. What do you think is
You
the...
have a question?
Yeah.
You talk about like being an art director and then, then putting yourself out there, working with, you mentioned you work with charities, et cetera, so you could get some space to practice.
Yeah.
But, I mean, and how did that actually happen? Because, I mean, at the end of the day, you've been working like, as a graphic designer, and now all of a sudden you want to paint walls.
Yeah.
Did you just kind of travel and just start painting walls till you were noticed?
That's
or?
what I did. That's exactly what I did. So basically, I did a lot of indoors work here in Dubai. So while I was working my full-time job, it was a crazy time for me because I was working until like 7 o'clock. Then I'll be doing my freelance stuff after like at night. In the weekends, I'll be fully booked painting either for a client or for myself or experimenting at home or doing some indoor stuff for people I know. So I was barely had any time to sleep, like around half a year. It was really very hectic because I was preparing. So once I got more retainer jobs or some projects here and there on the side and doing my own personal things as well, then I started feeling that I can leave my company. So it was a transaction from the two and it was really tough. It was also like financially, you're much more stable when you're in an agency and you have, it's fine without the mic. I think it's better without the mic. Yeah, so you're more financially stable. You have a very good income. I was actually got promoted before I left, so I was doing good. Like, I was very stressed, but I was doing good career-wise. So when I travel, I would just approach a person for like his house or anything, and I'll show him some of my work. So if they like the work, they'll tell me, yeah, sure, go for it, and I will just paint. And it could be on my vacation, it could be when I'm traveling for work or anything else, which was again was a big challenge for me because when you're traveling in Thailand, you don't find spray paint. In Africa, there's nothing. Like when I was traveling, I found nothing. I brought all my acrylics with me in the airplane, and they lost the bag, and they found the bag, and then so it's a lot of hassle when it comes to logistics. But because I was really passionate about it, I really want to do it. I need that platform to experiment, and it's also amazing for that community. For them, it's like a community event. Like in Africa, after working for 2 hours, I looked behind me and people brought their chairs. It was like this. You guys, but different ages. Yeah, they will just bring their chairs and look, because they never saw that before. For them, this is like very interesting and new, and it's a community event. And there's an additional element for it. A female is doing that. So you're doing something that little girls never saw before that a woman can do, in these communities. Or in Thailand, for example, and people come, they ask if you want to help, they bring you food, they talk to you, and some of them barely speak English. I would still explain the artwork, and they would ask me, because I'm doing something in their neighborhood. I'm in the middle of it, right? So I can't just, like an outsider, like an alien, go there, paint, okay, bye, So there should be that interaction. They need to feel that this piece is a new identity for their neighborhood, for that building, for that city. So yeah, it's a journey.
I'm sure it's also a journey in terms of the size, right? Because you're starting off with whatever your art piece would have been when you were a designer, would have been maximum 7,
Yeah.
5.
Yeah. That
And
was
suddenly
actually
you go into a different size, and maybe the perspective is completely different.
Well, that was actually one of the things that surprisingly wasn't so hard for me. I was terrified the first time I did it in Egypt, and gave me a big wall. It was part of a street art festival for females, for women, and it was in the middle, in the center of Cairo. So it was a very exposed area. So that's a big responsibility for me. That's why I was scared. So I just planned well, planned 3 times better. I had plan A, plan B. If something went wrong here, what would I do in the limited time that I have? I think planning helps a lot. And if you know how to paint well, scale is not a big problem.
Yeah,
think
I
it's
totally
just
agree with her.
scaling things. It's just scaling things. You just need to calculate. Like I did the grid style there. I just like per meters. I matched it with my sketch and I did the same thing and it worked. So when it worked the first time, I was like, cool. If I can do this, I can go bigger. And then I went bigger and bigger. So this is how, yeah.
That's fascinating. And then you came back over here to Dubai and did a piece over here.
That year, I did many things. I'm not sure. I did few public pieces here, yeah. But like less than other places. Funny enough, I live here and I didn't do enough public art here. But because here, it's not as easy. Like you need to be part of a bigger project or you need like a lot of approvals for that, yeah.
So with that,
Okay, sorry. Okay, we'll go back to the mics.
can you hear me? Okay, now you can hear me. Okay. And so when we talk about the art scene over here, I'm going to go to Maisoon and I'll come to you.
Yeah.
What do you think of the art scene here in the UAE today?
I think it's growing rapidly. This is what I noticed, and there is a lot of projects related to arts that the government are actually taking forth. I think you noticed the metro with RTA. They have different artists with their artworks. The mural that happened across Dubai. So yeah.
And what would you like to see in terms of the art scene? Like if I put one, what would you like to see different or added in the next 1 year?
I think more interactive artworks
Okay.
across the city would be interesting.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're getting hints on what that could look like, right? So, Dina, with you, what do you see as the art scene over here in Dubai?
Dubai is a new city, so I'm not expecting I'm gonna speak more about the public art scene, not just like the art scene in general or gallery scene. For the public art scene, I think it's moving forward. I think it's moving slowly but surely. And I'm not expecting it to be like New York, you know, but I would still like love to see more local talented people involved in projects, especially like in murals. I'm happy to see that there's a lot of international artists brought from all over the world to paint, but I think that the local scene should be supported more. Because, for example, when I travel to LA or any other cities around the world, you see that sometimes in festivals or in projects, 70 or 60% of the artworks are done by locals, and then maybe 30% are international. And sometimes in the massive projects that happened here, like from Canvas Dubai or other organizations, I think some of them was no local talented involved, or like a little bit of that. It's amazing to see like all this creative icons coming to Dubai to do this stuff. Like it's so inspiring. But I would love also to see a lot of involvement from the local scene. But I think it's going great. Like only in the few years that I've been here, I saw a massive difference. When I arrived here, I barely saw like little things here and there, and now different governmental and private entities are giving that credit to public art and street art. There's a lot of hype about it. There's a lot of more projects. I would also to see more street art festivals. We had one before, but then I think there were no funding, so now I would really like to see more street art scene, because Dubai is amazing, so why not to have street art festivals like yearly basis? Yeah.
You're tempting me with
I
two
hope so.
questions now.
Yeah.
So one would be, what would be your one place in Dubai that you'd like to do? This could be like you putting it out to the universe, right?
Yeah.
What's that one place you'd like to actually have your piece of art over there?
That's a very interesting question.
And the second one, so you get enough time on this, is where would you like to see a street art festival within Dubai?
Anywhere.
Another one. Anywhere?
Anywhere. I just like, I want to see street art festivals in Dubai because I
Okay.
love street art festivals. It brings people together, brings the community together. It's also amazing for visitors. I think it's brilliant. So I would love to see that anywhere. When it comes to Could be the old part. That would be very nice. They had few murals done there, and some of them are done by local artists actually. That was very nice. So I would love to see more of that. If it comes to me painting, that's a tough question. I can give you a list.
What's the first one? What's the first one that comes to mind, if there is one?
I had an idea of painting, how do you call it? A helipad? Where, yeah?
Where the helicopter
yes,
comes in?
Yes, exactly. Just the floor art. I had that idea for a while, actually.
Okay.
I even had like few sketches of like some painting done on a floor on a high building somewhere on a helipad or something. Yeah.
Okay. That's
Burj
pretty
Al Arab
cool.
or
I
something.
was thinking
Just
that as well.
Would be nice.
Yeah, you can put the bush out, right? You
Yeah.
never know what happens from
Yeah.
there. What about you?
I would love to have like an interactive artwork in the part of a city where everyone could actually interact, like the whole every single person living or in that area or a visitor can interact with the artwork itself. Something like that would be quite interesting to have.
And do you have an idea of where in Dubai you want to see that?
Oh, I can't tell in precise.
Is it supposed to be like a secret? Oh, it's a secret. Okay. All right, cool. So I'm going to move into a little bit of a quick rapid fire round over here, right? I'm going to pose, based on the answers you've given me, I'm going to pose some couple of words, and I'd like you to come back with a different word. We'll start with Maisoon. Art.
Passion.
Stole mine. Art, inspiration.
Inspiration. Childhood.
Naughty.
Joy.
Okay. Future.
Ambition.
Journey.
Wow. Dubai.
Home.
Fresh start.
Love.
Okay, this is a hard one for me. Can I skip?
Puppies. No.
I love puppies.
Happiness.
Painting, I guess. Yeah.
Do you want me to do the love one or the happiness one?
Both.
I love magic.
Alright.
Happiness. Peace.
Fantastic. So we're going to move into something a little more different than we've done this before. I'm going to pose the same questions and the same words to the audience now. Right? Fatma? Childhood. Dubai. All right. Future.
AI.
Oh, it is. It's already starting.
Happiness.
Freedom.
I'm going to get it to maybe some of the guys. Okay. Future.
Veronica, don't hide.
All right. Dubai. All right. And a last one to the gentleman out over there. Childhood. And so now with this, let's go back to you guys. What would you like in terms of questions for the?
For both of you, which is one piece of art that you're most specifically proud of? Maybe it's the scale, maybe it's the energy you made it with, or maybe it's the message. But what is that piece and where is it exactly?
Okay, mine is Until Death Do Us Apart. It's skeletons wearing the wedding gowns, the Emirati wedding gowns, and it's called Until Death Does It Apart. And it's like black and white. It's been sold, and I felt like there is part of me had been gone away. It was really hard for me to let go of that piece in particular. Yeah.
How long does it take you to make a piece like that?
It took me around, well, 2 weeks each, approx. Yeah.
For me, I think I leave a little part of my spirit in each mural I do. And different murals has different challenges, so it has different also like joys and like magic related to it. But one of my favorites are the one I did lately in LA. First because of the scale, also because of the theme. It was called the Butterfly Hug. I think you're gonna see it soon on the screen. So it's a woman crossing her hand. And it's a therapy technique that I learned how to do. I had a creative block for some time, and this technique helped me a lot to imagine. It is some type of meditation as well for me. So this one, yeah, so it's one of my favorites. Also, it was part of Powwow Festival in Long Beach. It was my second collaboration with them, like my second participation in this festival. The first one was in Rotterdam, Netherlands, and this is the second. So it was amazing also to interact with all the artists there. I met amazing people that I follow online, like from long time before, and some of them were new. So it was an amazing opportunity to interact, to learn, and just to see people. It was in front of the new City Hall in Long Beach. So the whole City Hall were looking at my mural through their windows every day and posting the progress, which was very rewarding and heartwarming as well. What other murals I really have relationship with? I did one in China 3 years ago that I love as well. It was very challenging when it comes to weather conditions. The humidity was higher than Dubai in summer. It was like, I don't know, 90 or 100 degrees humidity. So we were barely working in the morning. I couldn't work during the day. We were working during the night. And because of the lights, the spotlight on the mural so we can see it, you have all the bugs there going on the mural, so you need to remove the butterfly to paint. Some of them are so massive, like I never saw in my life, like this big. Yeah, so that was very interesting. Also, the culture there was different to anything I saw before. We were barely, like I was communicating with the workers and the people working in that area and the village, like the people living in the village only by sign language. Even sign language didn't work sometimes. But it's lovely to see their reaction, the sparkle in their eyes when they see an artist working. And that's why I think, like, not I think, it is a fact, like art is an international language. It's just universal. You can see how they relate to it, and everyone see it in different way. I painted one of the ladies that worked in that hotel, and I saw her the mural the last day. I showed her to her, so she was also very shocked to see herself in the mural, which was also an amazing and heartwarming thing to see. Yeah, so those are two of my favorites.
Hi. Hi. This question could be for both of you or one of you. How do you handle like when life has its stresses, or maybe you have a lot of projects that you have to get done because that's like the business side, but you don't want to lose the creativity? Because I'm a writer, and sometimes when I've got lots of projects going on, I'm like, I feel I'm losing my creativity because I'm things I have to do. So how do you both handle that when you don't want to lose the creativity?
Okay. I usually tell the client that the quality is not going to be as good if you would give me a very tight deadline to deliver. So after explaining it, they would actually understand, and they start changing their deadlines according to how I feel best. Yeah.
This is actually a very important question for me, and I can relate to it so much because this is something that I've been figuring out or trying to figure out for a long time. Especially like in the last year here, that I'm stressed and there's a lot of things that I need so many people to respond to, because in the last year I got bigger, like, I don't know, more exposure maybe, and more people approaching me, more than I expected maybe. So I got like, oh, I can't take all this, you know? So, and it's something that I'm still actually working on. But I think one of the things is sometimes you just need to block for writing or painting. You need to put your phone on silence. You need to put yourself in a flat or in a room by yourself and try to focus. Meditation helped, and I'm still working on that as well. But I mean, sometimes you just need to block yourself from everything around you and be very strict when it comes, this is the time for work and this is the time for my creative thing. Because your creative job is your spirit. It's like you're feeding yourself food, but you're not feeding your spirit. You don't want a functioning body with no soul, right? So it's very important. Once you think about it this way, you will know that I had food today, but I didn't feed my spirit, right? So you need to block some time for that, or when you travel, try not to have internet for some days, not to respond to anyone, make it clear to the people you work with that please don't approach me these 2 days. I don't know, I have something very important, or I want to like focus in my zone. Putting boundaries was something not easy for me. I'm that person, and I come from an Arabic culture, you know, we always say yes. We don't say no, like we're friendly, we're open. And I'm learning how to put more boundaries when it comes to business. Sometimes you just need to focus on specific things. You can be pushed with deadlines. And although it's so much easier said than done, believe me, because it's something I have to deal with on daily basis, but I think slowly you can get there by just putting some boundaries, yeah.
Dina, you mentioned something very interesting earlier, that a part of your soul is in every piece, and I'm pretty sure it's the same with you as well. I was wondering, because art is such a subjective field, right? Something that I might consider beautiful in art, another person might not see it like this. And you both are being very brave because you're very vulnerable, because you're putting yourself out there. So I was wondering, how do you deal with criticism? Do you just blend it out? Do you, I don't know, delete all the comments you might get on social media? Has it ever happened that, how do you deal with it? Because I'm pretty sure it's not easy, and I hope you don't get a lot of negative feedback, but it might be that a few people say that's yeah.
If you're being criticized, either if it was positive or negative, it's making me famous, so I don't mind it at all. PR.
It's very interesting. So the more I travel, the more I get, I'm not gonna say negative comments, but ignorant comments. Coming from an Arabic background, a lot of people worldwide don't really know anything. Some of them didn't travel to the other side of the world. Some of them doesn't know anything about Middle East or Middle Eastern women. How do we act? How different we are as well. Like, they literally have no information. And I learned that if I just get aggressive about it or upset, I'm not spreading that knowledge, because you're giving a very negative reaction, right? And sometimes it's really hard to contain this reaction, like me sitting in an Uber with an Uber driver in New York and being asked, does your husband approve you being an artist? And I didn't even say I'm married. So he would assume that how your dad will allow you or something. Or just because he knows, or I mentioned that I'm from the Middle East. Or other comments that I get all the time regarding my hair, or regarding what I'm wearing, or where I'm painting, or who I'm partying with, or et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So what I learned is I just try to educate, to be myself, tell myself with as much kindness and love as I possibly can, because this is the way we change the world, not by fighting, not by aggressiveness and just being like giving that bad huge reaction, which is actually, it's not something I'm good at, because I'm very passionate. I speak my mind, and many people don't like my honesty, but it's very important to be yourself and just to try and do it with as much kindness as you can.
Hi. Dina,
Yeah.
I have a question. You said that you traveled to many countries. Does your art reflect something about that country? Do you get affected by it? And my second question, you mentioned that you've been to Africa. Can you tell us about the art that you've done there? Did you get affected by African culture, for example? Because I know it's very unique. Thanks.
So the first question was I affected? Can you repeat the first question, actually? I have a goldfish memory.
Yeah, traveling a lot into different countries, does the area, the environment reflect in your art? Did you get affected by it?
Yeah.
And tell us about African experience.
Yeah, so the first question is yes, of course. I try as much as possible to incorporate elements from that culture or that city, or something about that people will feel strongly there about that mural, because it's going to be part of their neighborhood. It's like So I have to make it not a very outsider art. I would definitely need to put my identity in it, but I would also love to incorporate things from that place. Like the one I did in Thailand, for example, it was a flower, which me and the owner talked, like we had almost like a collaboration. So she was telling me that this is a sacred flower, it means purity, it means this and that. And then I elaborated on that, I did some research, and we did that artwork. So it's lovely to communicate and to engage and to learn, because it is a learning experience for me. From every trip and every mural, I learn something new, and it will definitely drive my work forward and make me more aware of people's culture, religions, thoughts, ideas, struggles, and this is all inspiring for any artist or writer or anyone in the creative field. So yeah, definitely. And also after the mural, like, obviously I do something different. Sometimes when I go back to that place, I would come up with a different income because I learned from that experience. The African experience was very short, so I can't really like give you so much input on that. It was in Zanzibar, and I was just painted. There were like a store, I think they sell paintings and stuff, so I saw the side wall was suitable for me with the materials, the amount of materials that I have, and I just asked the owner, and he was obviously very happy because this is his store, so it's gonna help him sell some more or something. So it was really nice, but it was also a big eye-opener for me. In Africa in general. First, well, I used some of the colors, very bright colors that you can see there in the fabrics, in the traditional dresses, but I didn't copy it. I just used some of these colors, and I just did something plant related, because it was also on the beach, so there's a lot of like leaves and different things. It was like very small piece. But I think now I'm going soon, hopefully, to Malawi, and I'm going for a longer time, much longer time. So there, I think I'm gonna have a better understanding. And obviously, every place, every new city in Africa or anywhere else is a totally different experience from the other, coming from like the cultures and patterns and traditions and people and all of that. But it was a very interesting one. But it was very brief, the one I did before.
Thank you very much for sharing your inspiring stories. I have a question about the creative process. I heard a profound interview once where, the interviewer asked the songwriter, how does the ideas for the songs come to you? And he said, it doesn't come to me, I go look for them. Yeah. So you spend a lot of time looking for inspiration. So how much time do you spend on looking on inspiration versus doing the actual work? And also, does the client value the time you actually spend on that process? Because you're actually not doing anything. You're thinking, you're searching for inspiration. You're not even at the office, or you're searching for inspiration all the time. Yeah. So what is that creative process like, and how is it valued? And what can you do maybe to make sure that clients understand that value?
Well, I think this is an important question because so it's very interesting. Some creative people feel that the inspiration comes to them, and some of them feel like they're searching for it. I think I'm from the second ones, actually. I do a lot of research, and it takes me sometimes, most of the times, more time to think over that sketch and the inspiration behind it, the story, than painting. I paint very fast. Like the work I did in LA, which was three floors, of a parking wall, was done in 5 days, I think. But the work to do the sketch, I did 3 different sketches, and I killed so many ideas before doing that. So it's definitely more time for that side than executing the artwork for me.
I'll give an example of one of the projects that I was working on, how the research process had been that I went through. So, for example, the Dara boat is the second boat after the Titanic that got sunk, and my grandfather was one of the survivors. While I was going through the documentation, it mentioned there was only one survivor, and it wasn't my grandfather, it was someone else. So, I was able to search in depth, and then I posted it on my Instagram, and then it happens to be someone else following me that his relative was a survivor as well. So it's been, yeah, so I kept researching it in that way. So sometimes some information through documents that you can't really know the true story behind it. So you have to hear it from people. So, yeah.
Hi. I was wondering, when you do public art, there are two different perceptions. One is the perception of the people who live there and which their culture influenced your artwork, but then there is another perception, which is the perception of a visitor who visits that place. And the artwork that you put there changes the perception of me as a visitor about the place and what characteristics does it have. Would you consider that in the artwork that you create?
I do, and that's Hello. Is it working? Yeah, it's working. That's a very interesting question, actually, because the visitor perception is always different from the local. It can never be the same. But my goal there is not just copying something that is my reality or their reality. My idea is to trigger thoughts, to make people question that artwork, because it's not a copy of anything. Sometimes I might think, oh, this looks like something from our culture, but it's not in your face, you know, because it's also like it with abstract. I put my own personality in it, which is a lot of nature and flowing lines and patterns and urban shapes, but not in the same way as it is like in a colorful, playful way. So I think for me is what important for me is for them to feel that it's adding something to them. I see the reactions, I have conversations with them, and also that it triggers question, it triggers emotions. If it makes you feel something, then it's actual art, you know.
Imran here. A natural aptitude should be required for a good artist, or it can be learned from environment or from any teacher as well.
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
A natural aptitude, a natural creativity skills is necessary for to become a good artist, or this can be learned from your environment or from your teachers.
So you mean, is it something you learn or something you are, like you have it since you were? I think it's a mix of both of things. I think it's very important to nurture art, to nurture creativity. If you're creative, but no one gave you a pencil and a pen or painting when you were little or encouraged you to do that, it's hard to be that person. And I think in parts of my life, I actually stopped painting a little bit when I was, I think, end of school, and my mom pushed me to go back to there. It's like, Dina, I didn't paint this month. You're so good. How would you leave this? Like, I don't know. That encouragement, that extra push for me is everything. It's very important. I give a lot of credit for that, like to my mom. So I think it's a mix of both. Trying new things, learning different things, practicing is very important. You can barely draw a line, and maybe in a few years you can do very artistic things when it comes to technical ways. But also you need to create something with a meaning, create something with an idea. So that's another side of being an artist. So I think it's all important.
I get a lot of people asking me this question as well. It's not necessary, like if you felt like you're not really good in using a pencil or drawing or using paint, you can move to creating sculptures or something else. Some artists, they actually manufacture their work in the factory. So you might give your idea to a factory and they would produce it for you, for example. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Maisoon, okay, so this is the first time I've ever heard of someone painting underwater. I do not know if this is something that is normally done by artists, but I also want to kind of understand why. I know you mentioned the history with your grandfather, but why is it the piece that takes you down there? Is it the floating inspiration? I'm just curious. And then also, what kind of art do you paint down there? I'm just very interested to understand more.
Painting underwater, it hasn't been the first done by me. There are other artists internationally in other countries that actually done that before. It's not new, but maybe in the GCC region, this is what I told from the media, that they haven't seen anyone from the GCC that actually done that before. So the reason why I started creating the works underwater is based on the shipwreck under the sea. So I would get my inspiration to create the artwork while feeling what's surrounding that area and create it. So yeah. Your second question about the artworks, the other paintings that I create.
What does that art look
They're oil based. Yeah, there is a video on YouTube if you search my name and my website, so it has my works there. Yeah.
So, Maisoon, it seemed like you're very much attached to your grandfather's stories and heritage. And do you think this is your source of inspiration? Your artist, like every artist, there's a source of inspiration for them. So, is this something that
it's part of my inspiration? Yeah. As I said before, like I get inspired by the people surrounding me on daily basis. It's either my friend or my colleague or strangers that I meet in the street, for example, you know? So, yeah.
Any other questions? Yeah? We're going to go with one more last question. And what I wanted to check with both of you was, what can we look forward to in terms of your works here in the UAE as well as around the world in the next couple of months or a year to come?
I like keeping it a secret, to be honest.
So that's a way of telling people they have to go on your Instagram.
On my Instagram.
Exactly. And Dina, for you?
Did you sign many NDAs? Well, I'm gonna talk about the ones that I didn't sign an NDA for. So I'm preparing for one in Malawi, the one I mentioned, and it's a school for a charity. So I'm gonna try and paint as much of that school as possible. And then I have another public mural for a museum in Lebanon. So this is the ones that are very now happening very soon. And personally, I'm releasing a limited edition prints with a gallery in the US, and that's something I'm very excited about now. I painted over 30 of them of this limited edition prints. I'm still working on them actually now, and I'm releasing this T-shirt that I'm wearing now. So yeah,
it's fascinating.
Busy year.
It looked like a busy year. I can understand now why you need downtime. Yeah. Well, on that note, I hope that all your wishes come true. I hope to see you all collaborate in some way. Look at public art in the UAE, street art fairs, and some secret piercing paintings by Maisoon.
Thank you so much for having us, and thank you guys for coming. I really enjoyed this session today. I hope you enjoyed it too.